This is Shifting Our Schools episode 103, one tech coach and a whole lot of teachers.
One of our biggest things in our district, one of our initiatives is attendance. And so the teachers are like, if we want our kids to be here, us teachers need to be here as well. And so they don't want to, they feel it's important to stay in the classroom. So I'm trying to bring in computational thinking as well. I'm learning that as well to bring that in for STEM hours.
Listen up, educators. Are you looking to take your classroom to the next level? The technological shift in education is happening right now. If you're looking to integrate technology into your classroom, you're in the right place. Welcome to Shifting Our Schools with your host, Jeff Udick.
Well, welcome back to Shifting Our Schools. Thank you for listening and subscribing to us in your favorite podcast player. If you aren't subscribed, you can do that right now. Just go and search for Shifting Our Schools in whatever podcast player you use, and you should find us, and you can click the little subscribe button and never miss an episode. We really do appreciate all of you who continue to spread the word about Shifting Our Schools. We know that we get more listeners through word of mouth than any other single avenue, so thank you for being part of our community. I've had a few listeners email me over the past couple of weeks thanking me for the time and energy it takes to make the podcast. No, the reason I do this is for you, for the community, as a way to give back to a community that took me from being a fourth grade teacher to a world traveling speaker and provider of professional development globally for teachers, schools, and administrators. If you're new to the podcast and you haven't heard the full story of my life's journey, then you might want to go back and listen to episode 31. It's a great way to just kind of get to how do we get to where I am today, and take you on a journey with a cup of coffee as I kind of relive how in the world a fourth grade teacher ends up in the position that I am now. So that's episode 31. If you haven't been listening for very long, you want to go back, that's the episode where you get to hear the journey of where I am today. And I can't believe I started this journey 15 years ago when I started blogging on the Thinking Stick. And that really was a moment for me. But you can hear the rest of that back in episode 31. I've had a few of you reach out and ask what you could do to help support our efforts here at Shifting Our Schools. And if you would like to help us, really the best thing you can do for us is leave us a review or rating on iTunes or anywhere you find us that has a rating system for podcasts. Honestly, it means so much to me when people take time out of their busy days to just leave a rating or a review for us. It truly is a way to give back and to help all of us who are podcasters and all of us here at Shifting Our Schools, just to continue to spread the message. And it's not just here at Shifting Our Schools. If you listen to a lot of different podcasts and you want to find a way to give back, it takes no money. It just takes time and a little bit of effort. Just leave reviews for every one of your favorite podcasts. It's just a great way to help promote us. The way the algorithms work in iTunes is they really are based off of reviews and ratings. So the more you have on your podcast, the more you come up in search results. So thank you for those of you who have already taken time to do that. And if you'd like to, that's really the best thing you can do for us here. We freely love to do this. There's a little bit of it in it for me that this is my PD hour. I get to spend time talking with educators, and it's my own professional development growth. I just record the conversation, and that's what I love about this, and being able to give this back to you. So, no one left a Flipgrid response to win a free copy of Classroom Management in the Digital Age last month. So, we'll put that back in the pile and try again in a few months. So this month, that is December of 2019, we're giving away a load of Flipgrid stickers that I received from Flipgrid. These are stickers you can give to your teachers who use Flipgrid in your school. If you are a coach or an admin, maybe you want to promote that, or give them to students. If you are a teacher who uses Flipgrid in your classroom and you want to give kids stickers, this might be something that you want for them as well. If you head on over to Flipgrid, you'll find a video from me showing you all the different stickers that I have, and I will mail them to you if you win this month's contest. How do you win, you ask? Well, it's pretty simple. You can leave us your Flipgrid response by going to sospodcast.org and clicking on Flipgrid at the top, or using the Flipgrid code SOS Podcast, all one word, all lowercase, SOS Podcast in the app. Download the Flipgrid app to your phone. Type in SOS Podcast, and boom, you can log in right there and leave us your Flipgrid response right from your phone. We will also be using your responses in upcoming episodes of Shifting Our Schools as well, so that we all continue to learn from each other. This week, we talk about being a technology coach, supporting multiple schools in the district. So there are two different questions for you. One, if you are a coach, and one, if you are an educator and teacher. So here are your questions that you can go over to Flipgrid and leave the response to and enter to win these Flipgrid stickers. So coaches, your question is, what is one strategy that you have used to open doors to classrooms and start building those relationships with teachers? So coaches, what is one strategy you have used to open doors to classrooms and start building those relationships with teachers? Teachers, educators, what is one thing a coach can do to support you and make you feel willing to reach out for that support? I think it's such a great question. There's so many times that coaches want to know, what can I do? So educators, if you would help and leave a Flipgrid response and say, here's one thing that I have had a coach do that really made me feel supported, made me feel willing to reach out and ask for support. We'd love to hear from you as well. Again, just record your answers to one of these questions over at our Flipgrid to enter your chances to win a whole stack of Flipgrid stickers for your school or classroom. This is how we all grow, by sharing and learning from each other. This week, Chris Butler and I have a chat with David Stiner, who is a new technology coach in his school district. Chris, David, and I talk different strategies and ways coaches can find themselves supporting a district of teachers. And what are those strategies that you can do, and how do you help support, especially when you are one tech coach supporting a whole lot of schools? So we look at big and small ways to support those teachers. I hope you enjoy this episode. And with that, on with the show. All right, welcome back to another episode of Shifting Our Schools. So great to be here with Chris and David. Three guys hanging out, talking tech, talking coaching. Just a good night for that. So we'll have David introduce himself here in just a bit. Chris, let's get started with you. How was your day at work? I like that this has become almost a part of our
It's kind of a thing, right?
Now. It's like we need to come up with like a segment of the show that's like a day in the life of Chris Butler or something.
I love it.
You know?
Yeah, we should make that happen. So it's really interesting right now, and I was kind of sharing this before we started recording the episode, but kind of riding a roller coaster in the district right now. It's a fairly new position. There was a half-time instructional coach last year. I'm the first full-time instructional technology coach. And it's a district-wide position, sort of like what Tisha was talking about when we had her on a couple weeks ago, but smaller district. I have 8 schools that I'm working with. But it's interesting because the district is in the final year of their tech rollout, but it was only a 3-year rollout. And the trainings have been targeted at specific schools. So like the elementary schools got some training a couple years ago, the middle schools got some training, and now we're kind of focusing on the high school. But as you know, Jeff, and probably David, you can probably talk about this also, early on in the implementation, a lot of times we're not getting to those higher levels. If you're talking about like of the SAMR model, we're not getting to those higher levels of modification and redefinition where it's more of those substitution type pieces. And so I had, just as an example, a lot of it is from the teachers. I'm getting just, will you teach me how to use this app in my classroom? But there's not a whole lot of instructional change happening. They're kind of doing the same thing they used to do, but now they're doing it on computers. It's a good step in, but it's not where we want to go. It's always a process.
Still it's that enhancement mindset, right? Like, how can I do something? How do I not change what I've always done and just enhance what I'm doing, not actually rethink the way I teach? Yeah, exactly.
So last night I had a professional development session planned, and it was all wrapped around kind of the bigger idea of the why are we using technology? How can it change what we do in the classroom? Looking at the SAMR model, looking at blended learning, and kind of that big idea focus. And unfortunately, we only had one person signed up, so I had to cancel. I'm going to say postponed because I want to do it. Postpone. But it didn't happen. So that was kind of a bummer for me. But on the flip side, I said I was kind of riding a roller coaster in the district. On the flip side, I talked a couple episodes ago, last episode, about how where I'm working with a library instructional assistants, and we are teaching them how to do green screen and video clips. And I've been in the libraries with the kids doing that the last week or so, last 4 days, and it's been amazing. They're so excited to be doing
awesome.
cool things and creating video and learning how to do that. And they're just like they're like kids in the candy store. It's wonderful.
Right. Yeah,
It's
so cool. Huh?
So that's filling my cup right now.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, we're gonna David's a coach as well, so we're gonna spend a lot of time today unpacking that and even talking deeper. I think it'd be really good for us to just kind of dig into some of that stuff, Chris, that you're talking about, and see where that go. But Dave, thank you, David, for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get your story, your background. How'd you end up in education? How'd you end up in the big town of Toppenish?
Okay, so my name is David Stiner. I'm the instructional technology TOSA for this Toppenish School District. And my story is quite unique in different ways. I first wanted to be a music educator. So I went to CBC and started my endeavor there and started all my music stuff. Went to Central Washington University, and that's where I made the switch from music to elementary ed. But my whole thing was, ever since high school, I wanted to be an educator. And and it was because of my band teacher, actually, that I wanted to be an educator. So I went through there, went and got my education degree. And then I spent a couple years in Ellensburg teaching, substituting, and then Toppenish, actually, I applied in Toppenish. They called me up to actually become a band instructor. So that's how I got into the district.
There you go.
So, and then a few years ago, I became the library media specialist at an elementary school. And that's where my love for tech really started. I always had a thing for tech, but ever since I started that library media specialist job, that was where everything kicked off. People were coming to me for technology issues or how to incorporate technology in their within their classroom and lessons. And it was on a small scale. So, but that led to this position that I have now, which is the technology TOSA. And it's actually a brand new position.
That's it. Yeah.
And it's just district wide, just like what you said, Chris. It's district wide, and it's a brand new position. So it's still in its infancy. So I'm still learning as I go of what I need to do. And so I have some goals that I'm trying to complete as well. So,
and for people that don't know a lot about Central Washington State and this town of Toppenish, can you kind of give an idea of like how big's your schools, how many kids you have, elementaries, middle school, high school type thing?
So we have two bigger elementary schools. That's roughly about 600 students. Two smaller elementary schools, about 425. I'm not sure about the high school and middle school, but the middle school has a lot of kids. We're constantly growing, but we're in rural Washington.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of migrant families. We're 85 to 90% Hispanic migrant families.
Wow.
And then low income as well. So we're pretty well diverse in our area.
And has Toppenish been one-to-one for a while? And what's your tech look like?
So here's our tech. So we have 1-to-1 6 through 12, which is really good, but they don't take it home. And it's by classroom too. So each classroom has like a cart, or they have a stack that's on the wall.
Yeah.
And that stays in there, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. Every single time the kid comes in and they grab a Chromebook, and then at the end of the time they put them back. So, and we're mostly Chromebooks. We have a few labs. They're virtual or PC.
Elementary have devices?
Elementary has devices. K1, well, I should say K5 has iPads, but that's just usually for Project Lead the Way. but we're pushing Chromebooks down lower into K through 5 as well.
And one at that level, or?
No, we're not even close to 1-to-1. Maybe one cart per grade level or 2 carts per grade level. We'll soon be 1-to-1 if funding happens to
sure.
going.
Levy season's right around the corner here. We're getting ready to, very much levy based here in the state of Washington. So I got to go back out to the voters and ask for some more money for sure. It's funny that I love the transition that you moved from a library media specialist into the Tech-TOSA role. And I find I just, as you were talking about your story, I was just thinking, like, has there been any greater change in educational, I guess, what am I trying to say? Like duties than the library media specialist? Like at one point when we talked about a library media specialist, like that's where you went to check out the projector, the TV, and the videotapes, right? And cassettes.
Yeah.
And that same person in this last couple of years is now the person you run to when your laptop doesn't work. That becomes literally a hardware specialist, or I need ideas for apps, or, I just think of if there's one single role in schools that I think has seen the greatest change of what it means to be a library media specialist today. I mean, our idea of media is completely different than what most people ever dreamed that job was, So I love that from a Tech-TOSA role. So let's kind of, what are some things that you're doing? And Chris has shared on some of his other podcasts too, as being a first-time tech coach or Tech-TOSA in a school district that has never had that position before. What are some of the things you're trying to do, David, to kind of help people understand your job and what you're there to do? Are there some things you're trying to put in place? Are you sending out newsletters? What are some of the things you're trying to do with that?
Yeah. So since it was a brand new position, union wise, I had to interview. I couldn't have just stepped right in. So when I interviewed, there was already things that I wanted to do. And one of the biggest things was a monthly newsletter, where we go out or I will write it up, and it has tech tips in it. It has, and we even have tech challenges where the teachers can enter this challenge and they win prizes, and try to get more tech in there. And we actually call it the Wildcat Tech Bites, BYTE. So I actually named that. It's like, this is kind of cool.
That's cool.
So, and I even rebranded our, was called Workshop on Demands, where that was our PD and for tech is Workshop on Demands. And I was like, man, this does not look good. Because every time people saw Workshop on Demand, they instantly was like, I'm not going to do that. Because it didn't look appetizing.
Right.
So, so I actually changed that to Wild Tech Academy.
Okay.
So that way it looks a little bit different, and it's more cohesive with the Wildcat Tech emphasis that we're trying to put together at our district. So. And
how are you sending out that newsletter? Is it a weekly, monthly?
It's monthly. I build it in Google Slides and then I convert it to PDF.
Okay.
And then send it out. And
then attachment as an email.
Yep, with live links in it and everything. So.
And why do you take the step to turn it into a PDF instead of just like making the Google slide view only and sharing it out with your district?
Because I'm the owner, and so I don't have access to send it to district wide. So I just make it PDF, send it to the tech director, which is my boss, and she sends it out.
Okay.
So.
All right. So basically you would have to enter in like every teacher's email address one by one.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
Brutal.
So,
okay.
So David, you mentioned your boss is the tech director, and as a new position, as a Tech-TOSA, a lot of times what I find happens, and you talk about this if you want to here. So a lot of times I feel my job becomes almost, people don't understand my job as a instructional technology coach or a tech toast. So they think I'm the one to fix computers, or I'm on the IT side. So some districts will put their coaches in their curriculum and instruction hat in that group. You said that you're under your technology director. Is there some confusion in that? Is that a tough, I always tell them I'd rather be called an innovation coach or something to that effect, because there's so much more involved in that. Can you talk to that a little bit? Have you experienced that at all?
I have a little bit, and that's where we, my tech director and I have talked a lot about this towards the beginning of the year of how are we going to present this position to everybody. And we sent out emails, and I've went to talk to people as well, one-on-one. I've went to staff meetings and just expressed that I'm here to help you in the front end of things. The back end is for IT and differentiate between the two. And whenever I get people that say, hey, I need you to come fix this, I'm like, you got to put in a tech ticket, because get those IT. So I'm drawing that line so they know that I'm not just there to fix this or fix that. If it's something minor like a VGA cord or something, I'm like, hey, here's one for you. I mean, I'll set it up for you.
Because that's a foot in the door too, right? I mean,
and that's one of the biggest things that I actually watched or listened to a webinar a couple weeks ago and about tech coaching, and that was one of the biggest things was relationships.
Yes,
for sure.
And it was actually a Casey Bell. I don't know if you guys know Casey. Yeah, Casey Bell was the webinar person for that one, and she's her coaching session was relationships was the biggest thing, and that's where I'm still like building those relationships as well. So I mean,
that's really, I think that's a lot of what year one is, right? I mean, it's a new position. People don't know, to your point, you don't know. I like what you're saying, Chris, is even having the word technology in your title sometimes is not a good thing. You know, I mean, and I think that's the reason why every district calls them something different, to figure out what that is. And you bring up a really good point though, David, that it's this, and we've talked about this forever in coaching. I mean, I was a coach, my last school, I was a coach for the last, 9 years when I was in the school. And it was always a constant conversation over where do you draw that line of becoming the IT part aside. But like you were saying, Chris, it gets you a foot in the door.
Yeah.
And if it's about building relationships and you can solve a problem for somebody the moment they have that problem, that's a foot in the door. And so it becomes this really, this balancing act of not being pulled so that you're just running around putting out IT fires all the day, but that you are able to support teachers and say, yeah, I am here to help. I'm here to support you. And I don't know if you ever figure out exactly where that line is, but it is for better or for worse. It's a way to get a foot in the door and start building relationships,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And like you said, it's building those relationships. And like Chris said, it was getting that foot in the door. I mean, there's times where I will sit there and I will say, oh, I'm here. I'll just do it for you, or I'll check it out. And if I can't solve it, hey, I'll teach you how to put a tech ticket in, that's the instructional side, so yeah.
Are either of you, I'm just interested, brainstorming here as being in a new tech position and trying to put myself, if I was back in a school in 2019, 2020, and it was the first time a school district had ever had that position. I'm just trying to think of what are some things that I might try or I might think about doing. And maybe you've tried them and they just don't work. I don't know at this point, but I'm almost thinking, we know, especially because you both are like one person who is trying to support, 4 elementary schools, 2 middle schools and a high school, or, and I think you have 8 schools, Chris, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there a way, I wonder if there's a way of almost taking your newsletter idea and turning that into some kind of video for people. I wonder if some kind of video content, or even doing a a Screencastify how-to quick tip where people can quickly watch a video. Like, for example, we were talking about Flipgrid, I think, before we got started, is one of your favorite apps that you're really trying to push, and just doing, if it was like Flipgrid's my app of the month, and once a week you're going to get a video, whether or not you watch it. I mean, you could put it on YouTube and get some analytics behind it if you really wanted to, but be able to push that out. I just wonder, because I don't know, wonderments. One, does that help people see your face and just recognize who you are? Two, does it allow you then to explain, here's how I can support you, or here's really what my role is, in a way that is also adding value or giving value to teachers? And I don't know if that would work.
Actually, we've been talking about that in our district. The technology director and I have been talking about doing how-to videos and actually having them on the school district website. And so it's in the works. It's, like I said, this is a new position, so everything's going to take a little bit of time, but we're slowly getting there.
And Jeff, to that point, I really like that idea of getting your face out there. We've talked about Voxer before versus a video chat and that sort of thing as a PLN type thing. And just to get your face out there and your voice out there, so people kind of because I honestly I haven't met everybody in my district yet. There's no way. So for them to put a name with a face and a voice. But I also think that, like with your newsletter, David, and whether you can do, like, I've created a Google Classroom with some building tech leaders that I have in the district and that sort. So just multiple ways to get yourself out there. Provide a cable if they need it, help them, get their computer set up, whatever it is, just a way to get out there as a coach and kind of be known for that you're available and willing to help and that sort of thing.
And I was just looking, because I mean, it's not a new idea. I was just looking, it's episode 79 was the one that had come to mind. If you want to go back and watch, and I'll put a link to that episode in the show notes for people as well, because we're referencing it. But episode 79, I was with the tech coaches in Moses Lake, which is also in the central part. And I titled the title of the podcast is Moses Lake and the YouTube Tech Coach Challenge. And there are two tech coaches there. So there's two of them. One of them is focused on the high school, and the other one does all of elementary and middle school. But they amongst themselves have started a YouTube challenge where they upload videos of anytime a teacher asks, how do you do this? Or can you help me with that? They are making Screencastifies, but they're challenging each other in that the end of so they're sending these videos out to teachers, but at the end of it, it's like, don't forget to subscribe because I want to beat him or I want to beat her.
Cool.
And so they've created this fun little game amongst the staff of looking, and of course they're always kind of joking with each other, like, oh, let me show you something that Monica would never show you how to do. Like they've got this really good vibe. And cool. And when you hear when other teachers come to the PD trainings with me, they talk about them, right? And they're building these relationships just through funny, stupid videos that we all like to watch. And in the meantime, you're learning something about Flipgrid or, whatever it happens to be, Ed Puzzle. Let me name your app, that they're just kind of trying to, like, oh, here's an app I found, or here's a tip, or if you ever thought about this, or some teacher the other day asked me about this, here's a quick fix for it,
Love it.
As a way to just do that. And so they've got their YouTube channels, and then they're trying to get all their teachers to subscribe to them. So it's kind of a fun little way. And I just wonder if there's something there where, being kind of, for lack of a better word, dorky, in a video, or even at the end of, like, even if it's just going out to your teachers at the end of the video saying, remember, please subscribe below, type thing.
Right. Yeah.
To just kind of be that kind of playful, I'm here to support you kind of person. Yeah. I don't know.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that too. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I know that one of my goals this year to get into the buildings and get into the classrooms is I actually sent out an email to the administration my goal is to work with one PLC in each building.
Oh, that's a great goal.
And so to help them incorporate the technology into their lessons. And so I've heard back from one school so far, and that was only 2 weeks ago. So that email was sent out. So
Okay.
hopefully we'll hear from more, but
Yeah.
that's my goal. And I think that's a way to get my name out there. Because one thing my tech director said is, if you do something for somebody, they're going to go tell somebody else,
Yes.
which is
Yeah,
gonna,
absolutely.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then episode 100 was with Tisha Richmond, and
Yeah.
she called it finding her sparks.
Your sparks.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, I'm still thinking about that,
Yeah.
where she was like, you have to, as a tech coach, when you are supporting multiple schools across the district, how do you find those go-to people in each school? Like you're saying, like connect yourself to a PLC, find the one teacher who's kind of the geeky teacher that you can be like, okay, you're my spark. And then you're all in with that teacher.
Yeah.
Because you just need you need one thing to go right for the next teacher to say, oh, that was kind of cool. I'll reach out to David too. Oh, that was kind of cool. Let me get Chris, what's this Chris guy do? Well, let me bring him into my classroom,
Right.
Yeah, I know my tech director always says, you gotta get the rabbits and then the turtles will follow.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yep.
I mean,
So true.
So David, one thing that we did at the high school in Hood River, we had a 3-day PD session, if you will, but I was in the building, and the teachers, they were able to sign up for a consulting session, is kind of what we called it. You could, it could be during a class. I just drop in, I kind of see what they're doing, give some feedback like, hey, I saw you were doing journaling for your opening, or for like an exit ticket. Maybe you might try Flipgrid, and then I can support you in that in the future. So 3 days I could sign up for a half a period. It could be during class or during their planned period. But it was just nice to get me in the door, and then maybe some follow-up sessions, which it has led to. So I don't know if that'd be something you guys could work into your job there, but it was a cool way of doing PD rather than just teaching 12 people. That's 12 people. It's better than nothing, but you're in the building with them in their class. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And I know that I have my CTE director too is actually pushing a lot of posting a lot of my stuff out to her clan as well. Like last night I had my Flipgrid training, and it was the biggest training of the year.
Nice.
And 3 of them were actually parapros, working through either with special ed or they're part-time special ed parapros, and they're part-time teachers. So yeah, they were, it was kind of awesome to see that.
That's very cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Chris, as you kind of reflect on why you only got one person to sign up for your training yesterday, I mean, I know you're new to the district, so there's always trying to figure out, like, is it a thing that people aren't willing to travel? Is it like there's always the timing thing, right? Like you worked all day. The last thing you want to do is go to a PD training. That's always, that's a given, right?
Right.
But as you kind of reflect on it, because it's not the first time it's happened. I guarantee you there's other coaches listening to this right now going like, yeah, that's the same problem I'm having.
Right.
But as you kind of reflect on it, what are you kind of thinking about? Because you say you postponed it, you're going to try and run this again, that you're kind of thinking about, okay, here's my next approach, or here's something I'm kind of thinking I might want to do or try next time.
Yeah. So I have a series of 6 sessions planned out through the year, one each month, kind of scattered at buildings throughout the district. So I'm kind of spreading the love that way.
So you're holding them at different buildings, which is cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think part of it was, quite honestly, I might have overshot the mark with the idea behind it, because like I talked about earlier, a lot of what's the felt need right now is teach me how to use a specific app.
Right. Show me where to click.
Show me where to click. And this was more of that big idea, big picture type stuff. So I might have overshot the mark a little bit, which that's fine.
Reflection.
But I think it's really important that we get there. So maybe this could be better at the end of the year, moving towards next year type of thing.
I like that. That's a great reflection. Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, time is always an issue.
Yeah. And that's, it's a really good point. As a first year tech coach, you're trying to fill out, where I've been hired to take them to a certain level.
Right.
Yet there's this basic need / want / understanding that teachers need. And how do you almost stair step that? And it's really easy to be like, oh, gun ho it.
Right. Yeah.
We're just going to change every classroom tomorrow.
Right.
Oh, I am so guilty of it. I mean, the number of trainings I have walked into, as a consultant, and I'm aiming for, level 5.
Yes.
And all of a sudden within 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, we got to go down to level 1. Like I can get you there, but we got to start down here and we've got to build this sucker up a little bit.
Right.
And I can only imagine on when you're talking about a district, trying
to well, and it's one of those things that, I'm a huge proponent of personalized learning for students.
Yeah.
It's personalized learning for the adults, meeting them where they are when they need it. Right. So I started out by, I did some surveys of the staff. What are you doing? What are you interested in as far as PDs? Here's what I can offer. And I use that as my template for all of the other sessions.
Yeah.
But this one I said, I think they really need this.
Yeah.
So, which
sure.
We'll get there. But
we'll get there because they really do need it.
They really do need it. Yeah.
It's funny because we talk about building relationships, and it just like I'm remembering all this stuff that when my last school was International School of Bangkok, and I mean I'm a total geek, and I'll own it. My wife makes fun of me all the time, but one of the things I became known for, I was there for 4 years, and you have to remember this is 2008 to 2012. So the iPhone came out 2007. So the iPhone's like a year old, right? At this point, when I get there. And I was so into understanding smartphones and cell phones that I would send out a email blast. I had access to the entire school's email list, unlike you do, David. But it became like I would stay up because we were in Bangkok. The iPhone announcement was like at 2 a.m. or something, or midnight Bangkok time. But I would stay up and I would like basically quote unquote live blog the announcement of the new iPhone into an email. Right. And it was this email with like my thoughts and why you should upgrade and why you shouldn't upgrade and why you should buy Android over iPhone or iPhone over Android. And the first year I sent this out to all staff, and everybody was kind of like, this guy's weird. Like this is because it has nothing to do. And this is the point. It had nothing to do with solving problems in the classroom.
Yeah.
I was solving a need of people wanted to move into a smartphone world, but didn't know the difference between an iPhone 3G, I think was the second version that came out. Right? And like, should I upgrade? So it became the thing I did. So every year it was like Jeff's take on the new iPhone announcement. Well, by year 3, I have people emailing me before the announcement, like, so are you going to let us know?
Oh, that's
so funny. And so it became this thing that I was solving a need that wasn't even tech-based as a way to build relationships.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And same vote is, I just had a teacher last week. He came to me and said, hey, I want to get a new personal computer. What's your thoughts?
Yeah.
I want to go to Costco and I just don't know what to get.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, let's talk about it. Let's see.
Yeah. But I'm wondering, like with your newsletter and stuff, is there a way to even be like, as the holiday season's coming around, here are my picks for if I was buying a teenager a cell phone, I wouldn't buy them the iPhone 11. I'd buy them the iPhone 7 refurbished or whatever it happens to be, right? Like, whatever you wanted to do. Or for example, you're looking to buy a middle schooler, you have a middle school child at home and you want to buy them their first laptop. Here's the 3 Chromebooks I'd recommend. Here's one from Costco, one from Amazon, because you can build those relationships around tech. And the thing I love about this, the thing I loved about it is you are solving people's needs in the real world, and we all live in a tech world.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so even though it's not, in the classroom specifically, you're still solving problems for people in a technology way that shows that A, I understand, B, I'm here to help and to support you. And for me, it was not work, man, because I was going to stay up to midnight and geek out about, I was going to do it anyway. I literally was going to do it anyway. And I just turned it into, something as a way of kind of helping other people. And even the year after I left, I had people at that school still wondering if they could get the latest update at that time, whatever it was, the iPhone 4 had come out,
That's funny.
But I just, I think about that as just that need is still there. To your point, that you have people coming to you still today saying like, I want to buy a computer. I want to buy it from Costco. Which one do you recommend? I'll be like, shoot, I'll jump on the Costco website and go geek out for a minute on processors and RAM. I have no problem doing that for somebody,
And now you just made it a newsletter. So now I'm going to stay up all night figuring this thing out.
That's right.
So I can have it there by Black Friday. Come on, man.
See the Black Friday newsletter.
Yeah, Black Friday newsletter.
That would be perfect. That would be perfect. Yeah.
Love it.
I just think there's so many ways to support people in their needs around tech, both in school and out of school. And again, it comes back to building those relationships and what that looks like. Just what are ways that you can do that. And there's so many different ways to support people in that. Well, let's flip gears a little bit. We've kind of talked that one out. And now, one of the things we're going to talk about is coding. You were talking about before we started recording, doing some coding, especially around Tinker. Can you talk a little bit about that in your schools, David? What's going on with coding?
Right now, that's just in its infancy. But when I was a library media specialist, I did a lot of coding with the kids, and I was a person that liked them to actually learn the actual coding at elementary, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
I had some 4th and 5th graders coding with Python, easy Python.
But still.
That's, wow. Yeah.
Using Code Combat. So I don't know if you guys know about Code Combat, but it's
Combat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's a shout out to that Code Combat people.
And we'll put a link in the show notes. We always do.
But Tinker, as I started looking into Tinker a little bit more, they have everything from Java to HTML5 to Python, and even they even have the pre-K to K with the Tinker Junior. But I wish it was online, but it's only an app. So. So
is this a program you're rolling out, starting to implement? Are you doing it through your libraries, or where do you see this fitting?
I'm looking at possibly bringing it in, like I did with Flipgrid. I actually had one of those turtles that I was talking about. She's actually a library media specialist, and she started using Flipgrid after Joe Marquez, one of my good buddies from down south. I don't know if you guys know Joe. He's came up to do keynotes for our Google Summits in Toppenish, and he really likes Flipgrid. And so after that, my library media specialist went back to her classroom, started using Flipgrid.
Yeah.
And so I took that and I said, okay, let's pull this into the district and start using it district wide. And so I have high schoolers using it, so I was like, I want to try coding now, and that's where Tinker came along. I was like, let's look at Tinker and possibly bringing that in, starting at the elementary level.
And you're doing some learning around that right now, right, David? So a couple weeks ago, I'm on jump into a Tinker webinar, thinking like I want to get this going and with our littles too, and do other coding things. So, and I see David Stiner, Toppenish, Washington. I'm like, David, this is awesome. How you doing?
Very cool.
Yeah.
I never really played with Tinker a lot. The only time I played with it is when I was a substitute teacher. When we moved back here to the States, I substituted for a couple of years. And when I was a sub, I basically just saw it as basically my own personal lab site. I was basically treated as I was a scientist and they're my little specimens, right?
Yeah.
And so I would I have an iPad 2, I had an Android tablet, and I downloaded all these coding games. Mm-hmm. And I would literally go in and just like hand the devices out to kids like, hey, will you play this game and let me know what you think? And over and over, Tinker came back as one of the ones where I literally was like, okay, well, this kid's disruptive in class and I'm a substitute teacher. So I've got a little bit different perspective on this. he's being disruptive in class, but he really likes playing tinker. Go learn to code, dude.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just sit in the corner and you can tinker away all day, right?
Yeah.
But it was really interesting. That was with third graders,
Yeah.
the class I'm thinking about, where
Mhm.
I had one kid, he was totally into it.
Cool.
And I was like, oh my gosh, he's doing all this math. You think that this is a kid who's not engaged in school in a traditional sense.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden he's learning math through a different avenue, through a coding avenue. For
Well, and
this
that
kid, that might be the way to work, right?
yeah, and that computational thinking
Oh,
he's going through. I mean, it's
incredible.
amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. What
And
are
that's
some of the,
that's
ahead.
the other thing that I'm also bringing in, because there's a big, huge need with STEM hours in our district, and a lot of teachers don't want to go out and get the STEM hours like at the ESD or and take time off, because one of our biggest things in our district, one of our initiatives is attendance. And so the teachers are like, if we want our kids to be here, us teachers need to be here as well. And so they don't want to, they feel it's important to stay in the classroom. So I'm trying to bring in computational thinking as well. I'm learning that as well, to bring that in for STEM hours. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'm doing already.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like learning. So
yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about, you said your school's kind of all in with Flipgrid, and we like using Flipgrid here on Shifting Our Schools as well. We've got our own Flipgrid account that you should go over and answer today's question.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you can win a free,
plug,
whatever it is for this
good plug.
month. Quick plug. But what are some ways that you've seen Flipgrid used? Like, can you give some examples at different grade levels, some cool things that you've seen happen with Flipgrid?
So the first thing that we did was, when we were looking through our sequence for this year for the library media specialist K5, we decided we used learning.com as our curriculum for technology.
Yep.
And in there it said, do a video or do a presentation. And so we said, well, let's do a video instead of a presentation in front of everybody. And then we're like, okay, let's do a Flipgrid. And that's how this whole thing started. Was that little nugget of that we're going to use this Flipgrid for digital citizenship. And then from there, it just steamrolled. And I have high school teachers using it. Right now, I have one that's using it for his career tech class, where he's posing a interview question and they're responding to that interview question.
That's cool.
I was talking to one of the teachers yesterday. He's a marketing teacher and up at the high school, and he says he's using TikTok right now. I'm teaching the kids how to use TikTok, and I said, well, Flipgrid's a perfect starter, for those kids. Yeah. And even if they're not comfortable using TikTok yet, use Flipgrid for them to start getting themselves used to talking in front of the camera and everything. And so it was quite a cool conversation that we had between TikTok and Flipgrid, and learning how to successfully use a video platform to teach students this different concepts.
Yeah. So. And when do you use one over the other? I mean, that's the thing I love when I like introducing things, especially video stuff. Like, TikTok does some awesome stuff. It's where a lot of kids already hang out, but Flipgrid's there as well. And Flipgrid does some things different. They're both great platforms, but why would you use this one? Why would you use that one? And anytime I'm introducing tools to kids, I'm always trying to have them compare and contrast. Well, what are the positives and negatives of this tool? What are the positives and negatives of that tool? Because no matter what you choose, there's going to be positives and negatives to both, right? But having kids just think about that, so that when they are doing stuff on their own, they can think through, okay, well, what tool is going to meet my need the most? And not just be like, well, I've got to use TikTok because that's all I know how to use.
Right.
And when I was talking to him about the TikTok issue, or not, this is not even an issue, but the TikTok platform, he said he's using it with his seniors. And I said, that's perfect, because those seniors are going out.
That's right.
And what not a better way to teach them how to use TikTok correctly when they're out there, because it is a social media. And so if colleges happen to find your TikTok and you're not you do something bad on there, they're going to say you're out, or I'm not even going to accept you into college.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or on the opposite end, in one of the schools I'm working with, they have a kid who has a couple different TikToks that he's created that have over 1 million views.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
And so now the conversation at that district is how do you help this kid harness his messaging board? You have a message board. What are you going to do with that? Now you can do a 30-minute digital citizenship lesson, or you can talk about how do you influence people inside of a platform like TikTok in a very positive way.
Yep.
And there's no common sense media 30-minute lesson that is going to be able to do that the way that you can when you have kids actually in these places.
Yep.
It just doesn't become any better digital citizenship to actually have kids in spaces where they can learn to do this stuff appropriately and correctly with a caring adult next to them.
Yes,
and I'll
exactly.
jump off that soapbox because once I get on that soapbox, it's all downhill.
Hey, you don't want me to get on that soapbox either, man.
Yeah.
I do digital citizenship trainings to foster parents and parents all over the Yakima Valley. So it's a soapbox for me too.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I have nothing else. If there's anything else you guys want to chat about or something that we covered,
Nope, I'm all good.
Well, thank you, David, for taking time out of your night. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great episode just on becoming a first-year tech coach in a school district that's never had one before. That's a lot of hurdles to overcome.
Oh, yes.
Chris has talked here that he had to even write his own job description to get the job. That's pretty good. Now you got to live up to what you said you're going to do on paper. Yeah. So, but appreciate you taking time. Really appreciate it. And we'll chat with you later.
Yeah, I would love to do this again too.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, David.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Shifting Our Schools with your host, Jeff Udick. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit sospodcast.org, facebook.com/Jeff Udick, and on Twitter @JUdick. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on Shifting Our Schools.